Hello, listener. Welcome to our podcast, The Illusion of Dependency. In this podcast, we'll be listening to 3 stories on how all 3 people have struggled with alcohol. Hello, I am here with...
My name is Robin, and I'm an alcoholic in recovery.
Hello, Robin. So how long have you been sober for?
11 years and a month. 11 years and 1 month.
That's awesome. So when did you first start drinking?
You know, I didn't drink much when I was a kid, like in high school and things like that. I was raised in a pretty strict household, and, just in high school I was more concerned about, I was a member of the pom-pom squad and stuff like that, and I'd get kicked out if somebody found out I was drinking. So I followed the rules for the most part. I had a few drinks in high school, but mostly it started in college.
And would you say, okay, because you said you were with strict parents, would you say that had some effect when you started drinking? Like, did that have any reason for it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, if you've been, well, maybe not everybody's like this, but I am. If I've been told no for a really long time, mm-hmm. I'm a very curious person, and I like to push the boundaries. So the minute I was out of my parents' home, I definitely did that, and I realized I was having a really good time.
I see.
And everybody should have some drinks. It's lots of fun. That's kind of where my mind was at the time.
Yeah.
So when I went to college, I didn't have rules. I didn't have curfews, and I didn't have 2 little sisters to be responsible for or to be a role model for, and it was all about me, and that was the first time in my life I'd ever had that kind of freedom. And started drinking. I was also social chair of my sorority, mm-hmm. both the pledge class and the member class. I found out I was really good at, creating parties and mixers and networking and pulling people together and having a good time.
I see. And so from all that experience, when would you say it started, like it turned into addiction and it stopped being fun? Like it turned into something you had to do?
Mid-30s, I started to drink more in I've had a rough day, or this really, this day's been really hard, or I'm stressed out. I started kind of the self-medicating process at that time. But it wasn't until I had, and I drank too much. Yeah. Also, I had gone through a divorce. I had remarried somebody who was definitely drank like I did. And so we drank more often than we didn't. And I wouldn't say I was a daily drinker, but I was really close. And then he and I got in a really bad car accident. And by the way, that was a drinking and driving accident. Mm-hmm. We had both been out partying, and typically we would kind of tag team it. If we both went out and we were drinking too much, I'd say, hey, I'll drive tonight, which was kind of code for I'm going to have a few waters. And then this is pre-Uber, pre-anything like that. Yeah. So living in Houston, you drove everywhere. And so we would kind of, one night he would drink too much, the next night I would drink too much. But I would say it was very rare mm-hmm. that we didn't drink too much when we went out. We definitely drank probably 1 or 2 more than we should have. And then we were in a bad car accident, like super bad. We had been drinking, and I wasn't driving. He was driving, and something happened. I really wasn't paying attention. And next thing you know, I hear him yell, we're going to hit. And we go crashing probably easily 70 miles an hour. And he wrecked the car into my passenger side. And I did what's called a passenger brake, where you put out your right foot, mm-hmm. raise up my left hand like I'm going to brake, and to kind of brace for impact. And when we hit the wall, it crushed everything. I mean, my ankle was an exposed open fracture, meaning there was blood and bone sticking out. My femur was broken in half. My spine was squished. It burst. My wrist was broken and burst, and my ribs, I had a few ribs that were fractured. They would come and get an ambulance and duct tape me to, not duct tape me, well, I don't know if they duct taped me, but they strapped me down to a wooden board, pulled me out of the car, and my life would change dramatically after that. I spent I remember in the ER, I was in the ER, by the way. I was in the ICU, I think for 10 days. It was awful. I could literally hear and smell people dying all around me. And that's when somebody said my blood pressure was off, and was I a daily drinker? And I thought, I don't know. I don't think so. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, maybe I am. So that was the first time anybody asked me if I was a daily drinker. And that's the first time I ever really had to stop and think about it. And I was at that time. By now I'm 40 years old, or 39. And I was the life of the party. I threw parties. I did mixers. I did them for my professional organizations. All the art openings and things like that I was a part of, like that was part of what I thought made me me.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the alcohol, but the party mixer planner person. And so all of a sudden, now I became this victim, this car victim in the hospital. And I was in that hospital undergoing a surgery almost every day for a week. I don't know how many I had, 7 to 9 surgeries. And it was pretty bad. And I couldn't walk. I was bedridden, couldn't stand, couldn't walk, couldn't roll over, could barely do anything for a month. And then I left there, and I went into a wheelchair and a hospital bed in my own home for another 3 months. So that was, I was definitely sober for that time, except they were giving me a lot of pain pills. And the pain pills did not sit well with my stomach. And I remember one day thinking, I'm just going to have a drink and not mess around with any of these pills anymore.
Yeah.
And so everything on my body healed up pretty well, except I still had chronic pain. And it was pretty, I still have this chronic pain, but at the time, it was like alarms going off in my body all the time, and it was like I hurt, and it was awful. And so one day I floated in my pool, and I had a drink in the middle of the day, and nothing hurt. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. I'm just going to float in the pool and have a drink, and I'll be fine. And it took about 3 years for that to catch up with me. And when I realized that it had me, there was a couple things I had to do, and I realized my daughter had her appendix burst, and I had to take her to the ER. I had to take her to the hospital, and I was with her for a couple nights, and realized how incredibly uncomfortable I was. And I knew it was the drinking, and I would make up things. No, it's probably I just haven't eaten, or maybe it's the stress, or maybe it's my blood sugar, or maybe it's allergies. I made up everything because I didn't want to believe that it was alcohol, but I knew then it was. So that's when it became definitely a daily drink, and it became kind of my self-medication to ease my pain. And when I say pain, it's not necessarily all physical.
Yeah.
It was emotional. It was mental. It was financial at that time. It was every kind of pain you can come up with. I had it, and it blinded me so badly that all I could think about was, I hurt, this is bad, I'm going to have a drink, oh no, I don't feel good. And it was just this vicious cycle. It just kept going and going.
Would you say that, of course, like in the short term, I think that's where how addiction kind of tricks your mind, where in the short term it feels good, but then it does have long-term effects, but you don't actually realize it because you're focused on the short term. And so in that moment, you're just like, oh, this is a good feeling, and it just stays for that long. And you're under this illusion where you actually feel good, but in reality, you're hurting inside, both physically, emotionally, and mentally.
Correct. Exactly right. It's very deceiving, and in fact, it is. When I thought I was the life of the party, in one retrospect, and then all of a sudden, to take a really good look at myself, I was a pity party. I was a vodka-soaked pity party. And all I could think of was the things I couldn't do, And I'd never been like that. If you asked me to do something, I could do it.
Yeah.
If it was a physical thing, I was very fit and physically fit, and all of a sudden there were things I physically could not do. And there still are things like that. But I was so full of fear and resentment and anger and obviously feeling sorry for myself. But I truly was in a lot of pain. And I will say this, vodka helped me get out of that pain at first, and it worked so well. And then eventually it became, I became I drank every 3 hours. I mean, every 3 hours, no matter what I was doing. If I was at my daughter's, school play or something, my water bottle didn't have water in it. Not a lot. I'm not saying I was drunk all day long, but I was drinking, slowly medicating all day long, because I truly believed that it made my pain go away. And eventually it doesn't. And it's sneaky how it gets its claws in you, and you really believe that you have to rely on this, that it's helping. And actually it makes your pain worse in the end.
What helped you actually get out of the addiction? What made you realize these are the steps I need to take? What did you do specifically to get out of it?
One day it just hit me. I have no more excuses. My things didn't hurt. I wasn't around the crazy ex-husband, and I had no more excuses, and it wasn't fun. It was no longer fun. And I had to ask myself, was the last time I had fun drinking where there were no consequences? No fear of maybe I'll drink too much tonight, or what if I say something horrible, or all these things. It had been years. And so it just hit me, I don't want to do this to myself anymore. This is stupid. And it was amazing. Once I really stopped drinking and got focused on the solution instead of the problem, all my problems, my skin got better, my figure got better, I lost weight, everything just slowly, it was every time somebody would see me, they'd say, oh my God, you look so good, and it'd be great to hear, but at the same time you think, how bad did I look? How bad did I look?
Yeah.
Apparently it was really bad. And my life isn't perfect, but I have tools. I have ways to cope and manage. I have no desire to drink, because I will tell you the gifts I've been given from sobriety are way tastier than any drink and way more fun than any party. And I think it sucks that I had to go through that. I wouldn't want anybody to be an alcoholic, but man, the recovery community and support is it's so good. There's nobody that can tell you how to get sober than another sober drunk. So anyway, I'm glad you asked me.
Yeah, no, me too. I love hearing your story. That was really good. Thank you so much. Okay, hello, I am with
Leslie Shelton.
And so I understand you are a recovered addict.
Yes.
And can you tell me how that started, the experience?
Of recovery or being an addict?
An addict.
Okay. Well, I feel like I was probably an alcoholic very early in my life. Mm-hmm. My family was very open about drinking, but I was sneaking around drinks even when I was a little kid. And by the time I got to junior high and high school, I was drinking a lot and pretty regularly, and not just drinking, but getting drunk. Drinking to get drunk, right? And there were some things going on in my life that might have led to that developing, but that's kind of beside the point when you find yourself 25 years old, dropping out of school. It doesn't really matter what happened when you were a kid. You got to figure some things out. And unfortunately, I didn't figure things out when I was 25 or 35 or 45. Yeah. But when I guess I was 39. Mm-hmm. I think I was 39 when I went to treatment. And I was really lucky that I was able to go to treatment because I lived in a city that didn't have a treatment facility, so I had to be accepted in another county, and I was indigent. So I was homeless and, in a bad situation, and I was really lucky I got to go to treatment. And for a lot of people, treatment doesn't necessarily work or doesn't work the first time. I saw a lot of people at the treatment center that had difficulty, but I was just so grateful to be there, and the things that they were telling me about the addiction disease model, and just being around people who were trying to do something different was a big change for me. And I didn't stay clean for my whole life after I got out of treatment. I did have one relapse, but that pretty much turned my whole life around.
What would you say was the point you realized you were addicted? Like, what did that look like to you?
Oh, dude, I lived knowing that I was an addict for so long. Like, I was a low bottom. Yeah. I just knew I was going to die as an addict, and I had given up any hope that there was any chance for anything different to happen. And so I probably was like 10 or 11 years at least where I was like, I'm a junkie, I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic, this is just who I am, you know. I can't go without it. I'll die without the drugs. Like the whole experience of withdrawing when I couldn't get the drug, whether it was alcohol or my drug of choice, it was just so painful. I just didn't feel like I could do it. And so as soon as I started experiencing that pain, I was immediately trying to go back and figure out a way to score so I could not feel that way anymore. But I got to where I was so bad at everything, I was even bad at scoring drugs. It was really I was a sad state. I was in a very sad state. So that was when one of my friends was like, hey, you could probably go to this rehab. And I didn't think I could go because I didn't have any insurance. Like, who's going to let me go to rehab? But they did. And again, the fact that I was able to go, that they welcomed me, it was powerful to be helped.
Would you say alcohol ruined certain relationships or improved certain relationships?
Well, the other alcoholics that I was friends with, it probably didn't harm those relationships. It was probably something that brought us together. You know, when I was addicted, I hung around with other people who were like me, so I wasn't around people who were not using very much. Yeah. But those other people in my life who were not addicts or alcoholics definitely harmed those relationships. Like, I still have a lot of guilt about the ways I let my kids down. And we're working through that. I feel like we're in a good place. I mean, I got clean. Eventually, all my kids welcomed me back into their lives. Didn't happen overnight. There was some resentment there. But when they saw me get a year and then 2 years and then 5 years and 10 and now 20, almost 21 years now, they know that they can rely on me to keep my word and not disappear on them, and so we rebuilt that trust.
And final question, would you say that alcohol sparked certain emotions or made certain emotions worse?
Oh Lord, well, tequila made me really mean, I can tell you that. That was that was a real thing. Like, there were some alcoholic beverages that created different kinds of reactions. Tequila was always, I had to quit drinking that because I was afraid I'd go to jail. But, I was a depressed person. I felt sad about my life and the things that had happened and all the mistakes I had made. And so I would drink to avoid that, but then I'd just be like, my life.
It just made it worse.
Oh, it did. It made it so much worse. And any problem that I had that I thought that I could relieve some of the pain of that situation by drinking, well, when you wake up the next day, nothing's changed except maybe you betrayed trust the night before or let people down or missed commitments or didn't go to work, I did lose a job over drinking. Yeah, I got fired. And then there were other jobs that I should have gotten fired from, and I didn't, so I'm just really grateful, though, that I got another chance to kind of start over. I mean, I really started over, and, now I have a profession. And before, I was a homeless, unemployed person who couldn't get a job anywhere.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was a great meeting. Hello. So I am here with
Jackson McKeating.
And so tell me about your alcohol experience.
I couldn't get into it now, but something really negative happened to me around 17. And even though I had hardly ever drank anything before, suddenly I was drinking every weekend, if not more, under my parents' nose. And I was doing this to cope with pain. Now, I wouldn't say that this was at the degree of a physical dependence yet, but already an emotional pattern of depending on alcohol to make me feel better had gotten started.
So would you say that alcohol helps you escape reality a little?
I would almost say it's the opposite. I think in my waking normal life, I kind of had this shell going up, and whenever I drank, it actually allowed me to feel. I think I was not letting myself do that, and by lowering my inhibitions and increasing my emotional volatility, which alcohol often does, I was able to feel the emotions that I was repressing on a day-to-day basis.
So alcohol actually helped you express emotions that you weren't able to normally express.
Very much so. And that could be positive emotions or negative ones. I was just very flat. I was very kind of dry, and alcohol helped me not do that.
And so because it helped you kind of express those emotions, would you say that's like one of the reasons why it was so addictive for you? Yeah,
I would say that most addicts, whether it's alcohol or something else, and you could theoretically get addicted to anything, I think that they feel that there's something missing, like on an inherent, like deep down level with them or their lives. And what they want to be is a full person. And what they think is going to happen is that whenever they take enough of that substance, or they take it with the right people or a certain way, that they will be that whole entire person that deep down they already were.
All right, that was it. Thank you so much for having this meeting with me. Thank you, listeners, for listening to my podcast. And I hope you've gotten some insightful knowledge from how much these three people have struggled with their alcohol addiction, and how they're all survivors of their own mind, and how they've all taken healthy and great decisions to make their lives better. Despite all that's happened in the past, they've all worked super hard to improve and get better, and are better and healthier than ever before. Thank you.